So you're saying young men are in a crisis, but also it's fixable?
I love that the conversation starts with, "There's a crisis," then immediately pokes holes in easy answers.
Yeah, because toxic masculinity as a headline feels lazy sometimes.
It's like diagnosing a fire by naming the smoke.
But he's pointing at something darker: emptiness, dopamine, and zero elder guidance.
The Andrew Tate is a 14-year-old's idea of masculinity line is brutal.
It's also accurate in a depressing way, like, yes, nature abhors a vacuum.
And the vacuum is, we don't learn how to shave from our fathers level weird.
Exactly, like dads used to transfer skills and identity, now it's YouTube thumbnails.
But is it really technology's fault? Or is it adults failing to teach agency?
I think it's both, but agency comes first. Otherwise, kids borrow purpose from screens.
He called video games a proxy for career and porn a proxy for sex. And I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, because proxies are safe and real life has risk, rejection, and awkward silence.
Risk is exactly what helicopter parenting removes, right?
He basically flips it. If you don't allow freedom in the real world, freedom only exists online.
That feels like a social experiment gone wrong.
And the Maslow angle: people feel like basics are sorted, so they stop seeing gratitude.
The hot shower thing, no one had this until 50 years ago. That's such a clean mental lever.
But the punchline is nasty. Material improvement, yet subjective worsening.
Life has never been objectively better and subjectively worse is an all-timer quote.
So you're depressed even with better stuff, because envy and the hedonic treadmill keep spinning.
He argues desires are mimetic, so happiness becomes relative, not absolute.
And that's where his comedy style works. One-liner, then a real psychological hook.
Like the trust fund kid line, that inherited money is still mentally tortured. Oof.
It's tough love, but the idea is, easy life can't build character.
I'll push back slightly. Some people with easy lives just suffer differently.
Sure, but he's not saying suffering is solved by hardship. He's saying meaning needs friction.
And then he goes full existential. Self-assignment. No one hands you your role.
That life is tough framing is almost like a dare to stop waiting.
And his answer to, "What's the end goal?" is weirdly comforting. Enjoy the process. Keep leveling.
But he also says at the peak of your profession, you still don't feel at the top.
Because the internal metric is as good as the next joke I write. That's such a comedian answer.
It also explains why he keeps chasing imposter syndrome like it's a workout.
He's basically like, if you haven't felt imposter syndrome in 18 months, you're probably not pushing.
Which is controversial because people treat anxiety like a defect, not a signal.
But he says anxiety is the flip side of creativity, so you metabolize it.
And he makes failure sound friendly.
Failure is one of the great gifts of stand-up comedy, is wild because it contradicts normal schooling.
He even ties it to learning to lose gracefully, like stand-up is ego training.
He also brings answer no from telesales, like building muscle against rejection.
That's the same logic as teaching agency. Young men need reps, not reassurance.
Still, we can't just say get tougher when the issue is depression, grief, suicidality.
Agreed. He separates depression as disease from just sadness, and that distinction matters.
He calls out the permanent solution to a temporary problem angle, but not in a flippant way.
And then he reframes depression like thinking about yourself too much, which feels partly right.
I love when he goes, if you're depressed because your serotonin's off, it's genetic. But if it's because life went wrong, you can change life.
That's not a full medical model, but as conversation fuel, it hits hard.
Weirdly, gratitude is the bridge between all this: crisis, meaning, grief, even masculinity.
Because gratitude is reframing, like, you're in the top percentile, so stop worshiping what you don't have.
And he makes it practical. When you stand in a hot shower, think about people who couldn't.
Which is a great move for people who feel my life is bad, despite evidence it isn't.
But he also warns that comfort can become a trap. Comfort crisis.
So the fix isn't luxury, it's challenge, purpose, and connection.
Connection is the underrated part. He goes, we're all still babies. We need people.
And that's why he misses religion. not for the stories being literally true, but for the community function.
He says the ceremony works because people came together, not because God is pleased.
That's a powerful way to talk about meaning without proselytizing.
And he compares fame and fortune to a land of milk and honey, like people confuse status for heaven.
He even has that next life framing, different life, not afterlife.
Then the whole grief sequence lands, cumulative grief, laughing and crying at the same time.
The Sean Locke story, people sending clips so you feel both upset and joyful, social media can hurt and heal.
And the mortality line, 6 months to live tolerance for nonsense drops to 0.
That's basically a filter for priorities. What would you do if time was short?
Which is terrifying because most people don't actually run that simulation until it's too late.
So where do we end up on young men? Agency, risk, community, and systems that allow failure.
Yeah, and also teaching them consent and real-life social skills. Because it's obvious isn't obvious at 17.
Consent is a behavioral skill, not a vibe. He's right to make it concrete and rude.
Comedy gets away with truths that society makes too polite.
And he keeps tying it back to communication, like find your voice through practice.
That's why the comedy teaching angle makes sense. Systematized jokes like music teaches patterns.
And speak at 92 beats a minute is such a Jimmy Carr physics prank.
It's a metaphor too. Communication is rhythm, clarity, and feedback.
Okay, I'm sold that the core theme is stop outsourcing identity and start building it.
Exactly. Build your character through process, not just comfort and comparison.
All right, we're going to wrap this one before we start giving people homework.
Too late, we already did. Gratitude, risk, and failure respect.
Thanks for listening, and stay sharp with your priors, then go touch grass.
And in episode 2, we're going deeper into what no man's land really costs, and why quitting can be the first move.
The big thing I heard is identity not as a trophy, but as a practice.
Yeah, and it's funny. He says gratitude, but the energy is actually discipline.
Gratitude practice is still practice, not a magic spell you wave at life.
But how does that connect to young men's crisis, though?
Because if you don't build identity, you borrow it from influencers, algorithms, memes.
Borrowing identity sounds dramatic, like everyone's doomed to be terminally online.
Not doomed, just undertrained, like they never learned how to lose or fail.
Failure is the only teacher that gives feedback immediately. Audience, rejection.
Exactly, and comedy is basically failure with a stage light and rent.
Still, I think there's a sharper point. He frames video games and porn as proxies.
Proxy for career and proxy for sex, because real-life risk feels forbidden.
But isn't it too easy to blame dopamine habits for deeper structural issues?
I don't think he's blaming, he's diagnosing the replacement behavior.
Replacement behavior is still a problem, even if the cause is complex.
Right, and he keeps insisting young men don't get agency, so they don't trust themselves.
Agency is the currency. Without it, you defer happiness forever, sir, like it's a payment plan.
Deferred happiness is basically just discontent in a nicer outfit.
The whole comfort crisis angle. Do you buy it?
I buy the direction, but I worry comfort isn't the villain. Suffering isn't that simple.
True, but he's pointing at the hedonic treadmill. Your life improves materially. Feelings don't.
Hot shower paradox. You get it, then you stop noticing it. Then you feel guilty for not being grateful.
The guilt loop is real, like gratitude becomes another performance metric.
Speaking of metrics, that switch from measurable to immeasurable, why did it land so hard?
Because it's parenting, career, grief. Everything that eats your calendar also edits your priorities.
And grief makes the invisible cost visible, like you suddenly value the time you traded away.
That line about eulogies felt brutal in a good way.
Brutal like a gym coach, your obituary will tell on you.
And he ties it back to motivation. We're all babies. We need connection to mediate identity.
Connection is the anti-isolation tech, not another app to scroll at 2 a.m.
Still, what's the practical output for someone listening tonight?
For me, it's stop outsourcing your purpose to whatever makes you feel temporarily powerful.
And replace it with a system that gives you feedback. Small reps, not grand fantasies.
Like his advice, time will pass anyway, so buy yourself gifts with today's actions.
That's how you avoid someday becoming a personality trait.
Someday is just procrastination with good branding.
But he also says there's voluntary unhappiness in chasing goals. Do you think that's healthy?
It's healthy if the chase increases agency, not if it just postpones self-respect.
So chase is medicine, but resentment is poison.
Exactly. He basically says entitlement is the real sickness. Gratitude is the antidote.
Nietzsche line is such a mic drop. If you think someone ruined your life, you're right.
It's rude but also accurate, because it forces ownership without denying pain.
Okay, but let's push back. Does feel imposter syndrome every 18 months risk romanticizing insecurity?
Yeah, because some people already have anxiety disorders, and they'll read it like a coping manual.
So how do we keep it motivational without turning it into just mental strength harder?
You frame it as a normal update cycle. You level up, your map changes, you feel weird.
Like when you switch levels in a video game, and suddenly your old skills don't auto-win.
Then your character has to learn the new boss mechanics, aka reps and failure.
And that connects right to learn to lose gracefully.
The society part matters. We shield kids from no, from rejection, from actual losing.
But sometimes shielding is safety. Like you shouldn't let kids get wrecked emotionally.
True, so it's not exposed to harm, it's trained to recover from disappointment.
That telesales anecdote, relationship with no as progress, was so clean.
No as the law of averages, like rejection coupons for confidence.
Confidence without evidence is madness, he said, and I laughed because it's correct.
Evidence like writing jokes, bombing, adjusting, then doing it again next week.
So, mercy of failure is basically, failure is necessary feedback, not a moral verdict.
Yep, and that's the mercy. Failure doesn't hate you, it just tells the truth fast.
I also liked his hard line on not everything is a business, about DJing.
The you shouldn't energy was so good, he basically grants hobbies permission to exist.
But the listeners will hear that and think, cool, I should quit my job immediately.
That's why he emphasized systems and process, not reckless identity collapse.
And then we get your no man's land framework. Quitting is that ugly middle.
The 6 to 12 months where your old buckets empty and the new buckets fill.
That's also the danger zone for depression, because reputation and network don't transfer instantly.
So maybe the real advice is design the bridge before you burn the old ship.
Or at least know what you're sacrificing, so you're not blindsided by the trade-offs.
Which brings us to the core. Men need meaning plus mercy. Meaning through agency, mercy through failure.
Meaning with receipts, not just vibes.
And if you're lost, maybe you're not broken. You're untrained in risking real life.
That's a comforting thought, honestly.
All right, let's wrap, because tomorrow people have to go do the boring reps.
And if they do those reps, they'll earn the identity back.
Earn it like a comedian. Test, fail, adjust, repeat. No guilt, just feedback.
See you in episode 2, where we get obsessed with no man's land costs and why quitting can be the first move.
Next time, we'll map the emotional bill you pay when you leave comfort and how to survive it.
Men seem lost lately, and the fix talk feels either shallow or cruel.
Yeah. Be a gentleman is cute, but it doesn't answer what to do tomorrow.
The scary part is suicidality rising, and it feels like a systems problem.
Systems problem or training problem, like nobody taught them how to handle uncertainty.
But uncertainty is real, Malik, and young guys are still dodging risk hard.
They're not dodging risk, they're outsourcing it to video games and dopamine.
Wait, you're saying games are career training wheels, and porn is sex training wheels?
Exactly, proxies. Substitutes for growth they can't access in real life.
And then influencers sell them a fake identity like it's a masculinity DLC.
14-year-old boy's idea of masculinity, that's the vibe, right?
And because elders are absent, the vacuum gets filled by the loudest content creators.
Nature hates a vacuum, and parenting has turned into hovering instead of preparing.
How much freedom should a kid get, though? Like practical boundaries, not slogans.
As much as they can cope with, which is terrifying because parents want guarantees.
Guarantees are for insurance, not character development.
Exactly, and the internet becomes the only place they feel allowed to act.
So the risk gets inverted. Online, they're free. Offline, they're trapped.
Offline freedom is social, messy, and delayed feedback, so it's harder than scrolling.
Delayed feedback, like how learning a skill actually works, not like instant likes.
Yep, and stand-up is basically that. Test it, bomb, then iterate instantly.
Which ties to your whole failure as a gift thing, right?
Failure teaches you your relationship with no, and no becomes muscular.
You basically trained yourself to hear rejection all day.
Telesales did it, yeah. Every no was one step closer to a yes.
Most kids today aren't trained for no, they're trained for avoiding shame.
And shame is a terrible teacher. It just makes people brittle.
Still, with depression, it's not just vibes. There's illness, there's biology, there's severity.
Totally, and depression deserves seriousness, not casual reduction.
So when you talk about thinking about yourself too much, where's the line?
I'd separate melancholy from disease because they get tangled in public conversations.
Yeah, people treat sadness like it's moral failure, and that makes it worse.
And suicide is never a standalone statement. It's often the symptom of unbearable accumulation.
Which is why selling fake certainty to young men feels so dangerous.
Fake certainty is comforting, like a warm screen, but it blocks real-life practice.
And real-life practice means risk. Small risks, repeated risks, right?
Repeated risk builds trust in yourself, and trust beats fantasies long-term.
But what about meaning? Where does meaning come from when comfort is easy?
Meaning rarely pays rent in a comfort-first life. That's the problem.
Wait, your hot shower point. Life gets objectively better, but subjectively worse.
Life dysmorphia, hedonic treadmill, envy-based happiness. People adjust and suffer anyway.
So, better stuff doesn't automatically produce better people. Maybe it even erodes challenge.
You can't have an easy life and a great character, sorry.
Show me a trust fund, kid. You'd say that again, wouldn't you?
You'd meet someone mentally tortured with a designer cup holder, yes.
That's harsh, but it maps to your happiness is the pursuit framing.
Yes, it's the happiness of the pursuit, not the achievement trophy alone.
And at the peak of your profession, how do you avoid meaning collapse?
You never feel at the top. You're always as good as your next joke.
So the ceiling keeps moving because standards keep updating.
And because the world orders comedians to be uncomfortable creatively.
But there's also the hero's journey. Trade measurable for immeasurable.
Exactly. Like time with your kid can't be graphed, but it can be lost.
You brought up that idea with measurable metrics versus immeasurable metrics. Why now?
Because grief makes it obvious, and grief is cumulative, not a one-off event.
Even a pet, you said. Losing something small can still hit mortality wires.
Pets teach you death is near, and near changes priorities instantly.
That's why eulogy thinking is brutal but clarifying. What will they say?
Yeah, hidden metric. Your funeral scorecard is the truth you avoid.
And you connect that to gratitude, like remembering you're lucky without being delusional.
Gratitude reframes the world. Life has objectively improved for many, even if it feels worse.
No one admired from 100 years ago had a hot shower is such a specific flex.
It's a flex and a slap, like, enjoy your luxury for 1 second.
Okay, so meaning mercy of failure and gratitude all collide into the same practice. Face reality.
Reality is the workshop, and failure is the sandpaper. Annoying, but it shapes you.
This is why no man's land is scary for people leaving identity, because they lose buckets fast.
Yep, and those buckets refill only if you keep risking the real-world rep grind.
Your comedy is basically a controlled experiment in self-erasure and rebuilding.
Controlled until the audience says, no, that isn't anything.
Which is the most honest feedback loop ever invented.
And the mercy is that it's safe failure until you turn it into a craft.
So for young men, maybe the prescription isn't masculinity cosplay, it's skill building under stress.
Skill building under stress, plus real community, plus consent education that isn't dumbed down.
You really think consent talk is missing for teens, like nobody teaches the mechanics?
People say it's obvious, but then you ask a 17-year-old what it looks like, and silence happens.
Silence, then a tutorial from the wrong place.
Exactly. And that's how confusion becomes a weapon.
All right, I'm convinced failure and agency are part of the real male mental health toolkit.
Good, because the goal isn't to feel good instantly. It's to earn yourself back through reps.
And if they do those reps, they earn identity back, without needing fake crowns.
Earn it like a comedian. Test, fail, adjust, repeat, no guilt, just feedback.
Love that, because guilt freezes learning, and feedback moves it.
All right, let's wrap, because tomorrow people have to go do the boring reps.
And if they do those reps, they'll earn the identity back.
Earn it like a comedian. Test, fail, adjust, repeat. No guilt, just feedback.
See you in episode 2, where we get obsessed with no man's land costs and why quitting can be the first move.
Next time, we'll map the emotional bill you pay when you leave comfort, and how to survive it.
That whole mercy of failure angle is wildly comforting, honestly.
Yeah, because failure stops being a verdict and becomes a feedback loop.
But how do you stop people from romanticizing failure, like it's supposed to hurt?
If you romanticize pain, you'll never learn. You'll just collect scars.
I think the key is graceful losing, not masochism.
Exactly. Lose, observe, iterate, and keep your dignity intact.
That's why the 18-month imposter syndrome joke lands, right?
Feel it every 18 months is basically the healthiest career advice ever.
It reframes anxiety as a sign you're leveling up, not that you're doomed.
Anxiety as a promotion letter. Congratulations, you're outgrowing yourself.
And then the men crisis part comes in. Young guys lose identity when systems fail.
Yep, when you don't get reps in real life, you get reps in dopamine loops.
You mean video games and porn as substitutes for career and sex?
I mean substitutes, proxies, training wheels for not having real-world agency.
But that sounds too clean, like there aren't other mental health factors.
True, but proxies matter because they block the practice of being a man in public.
Society keeps removing risk, then wonders why confidence never trains.
Helicopter parenting followed by why are you lost, bro?
So what's the antidote? More freedom, but also boundaries and mentorship.
Exactly. Permission to try plus someone to tell you when to course correct.
Try and fail sounds good until you're the kid failing publicly.
That's where failure needs mercy. Social safety for learning.
Mercy of failure is basically social infrastructure for growth.
And it's weird, because we pretend we're protecting kids, but we're starving them of challenge.
Yet people also say challenge can tip someone into depression or collapse.
Totally. There's a difference between meaningful difficulty and neglect.
So how do we tell the difference in practice, not theory?
One way, are you building skills and connection or just withdrawing support?
Like, is the kid learning, I can cope, or learning, I'm alone?
Yep. Connection mediates identity. Without it, you become a self-authored void online.
That metaphor about being a baby on its own is such a gut punch.
Because it's true. No baby survives as a standalone project.
Okay, but what about meaning? Does this all tie back to men needing purpose?
Meaning is purpose plus belonging, not just winning or being right.
And fame replaces heaven, right? Like success as a fake afterlife.
Fame is the land of milk and honey until you wake up and crave more milk.
I loved the life dysmorphia idea. Material progress, subjective weirdness.
Yeah, hot showers everywhere, but somehow people still feel dissatisfied.
That's the hedonic treadmill plus envy calculus.
Quality of life minus envy should be on a billboard somewhere.
So gratitude is the counter move, reframing perception and resetting the compass.
Gratitude practice is basically training your brain not to lie to itself.
But gratitude can turn into denial if people are actually suffering.
Right. Gratitude isn't everything's fine, it's you can still choose behavior.
That's where he connects depression to rumination, thinking about yourself too much.
Careful, though. Depression isn't just mindset, it can be a disease.
Agreed, but we can still say rumination makes it worse for many people.
And suicidality being a symptom means we treat it as a medical emergency, not a mystery.
Okay, emotionally I want to keep that tone. Hope without getting fluffy.
Hope comes from agency, doing the next reps, not waiting for perfect feelings.
That's why the 24-hour future exercise hits. Systems beat someday goals.
Your goal is tomorrow, your gift is today. That's ridiculously practical.
And for men specifically, agency might be the missing ingredient.
Young men feel they can't steer their lives, so they borrow scripts from influencers.
Which is hilarious and tragic. A kid's idea of masculinity comes from a webcam.
Nature abhors a vacuum. If elders vanish, the loudest teacher fills the space.
So is the solution mentorship, religion-like ritual, or just better parenting?
It's mentorship plus community plus a shared language for becoming. Ritual helps.
He even says religion as a proxy, not the literal stories, but the gathering.
Yeah, because ceremony bonds people and identity needs bonds.
Which brings us back to gratitude and grief. Mortality teaches priorities.
Facing death wakes you up to what actually matters right now.
And grief being cumulative, like each loss adds weight, not closure.
That line about eulogy metrics, what people say after you're gone.
That's such a strong way to measure a life, not just a career.
A CV is public. A eulogy is where the soul gets graded.
Then the peak of profession question. Does success destroy meaning?
It can, unless you honor the process and keep the feedback loop alive.
So at the top, you don't feel finished. You feel as good as the next joke.
That's basically humility with stage lights on it.
And it connects to quitting and no man's land, where identity empties first.
Quitting is brutal because you lose network, resources, reputation, fast.
But you fill skills and knowledge, so failure becomes the bridge, not the grave.
The bridge is made of awkward gigs and that's not it nights.
And everyone hates that part, so they stay comfortable and call it responsible.
Yet the best characters need hard choices, not protected mediocrity.
I like how he refuses to turn everything into monetization. DJing can be a hobby.
He basically yells, "You've got a hobby," like it's a public service announcement.
That's important for men too. Identity shouldn't be a single ladder rung.
Exactly, because if one rung breaks, you collapse unless you have other meanings.
Okay, I'm convinced. Mercy for failure plus agency plus connection equals meaning.
And if you do the next reps, you earn identity back, without fake crowns.
Let's wrap here, because tomorrow people need boring reps.
And if they do them, it won't feel like punishment. It'll feel like progress.
Episode 2 next. We'll map the emotional bill of leaving comfort and how to survive it.
Also, we'll unpack no man's land costs and why quitting can be the first move.
Okay, but the wild part is the failure piece, why it's medicinal for identity.
Because if you can't lose gracefully, you start calling life unfair when it teaches.
And comedians basically train that muscle constantly, right? Rejection becomes reps.
Yeah, the audience is an optician for your ego. This or this. And you flinch.
I love that. Instant feedback loop. No committee saving you from discomfort.
Most professions don't give you no like stand-up does, sadly.
Exactly. Because modern life often shields young men from no until it explodes.
And then they interpret no as I am nothing, not try the next angle.
That's why online advice sounds like magic, because it bypasses the reps entirely.
But mercy for failure requires agency. Otherwise, failure just becomes punishment.
So how do you give agency when someone's still stuck in one identity track?
You widen the metric from measurable wins to immeasurable reasons to live.
Like connection, purpose, character, stuff you can't screenshot.
Even a hot shower becomes a philosophical weapon against life dysmorphia.
Wait, hot shower is your reset button for gratitude? That's so on-brand.
Yeah, you stand there and realize humans once lived without that luxury, full stop.
But gratitude talk can also sound fake if your real life feels awful.
True, and that's why he separates depression as disease from sadness as circumstance.
Because if you treat depression like mindset only, you blame the person for being sick.
Exactly. Melancholy might respond to reframing, but depression needs real care.
And still, the thinking about yourself too much angle is a dangerous shortcut too.
Right, it's not just stop being sad, it's stop living inside a narrow loop.
The loop is like envy, dopamine, doom scroll, repeat. No wonder the brain gets noisy.
Video games and porn become stand-ins when real risk feels forbidden.
But don't act like all gaming is coping. Some people genuinely love it.
Sure, hobby is fine, he just hates when hobby becomes a cage.
So the core issue is agency theft by comfort and helicoptering.
Yeah, you can't build a man's life if you don't let him practice living.
That's why he says young men are freedom-starved in real life. Then it leaks online.
And influencers then show up to sell a cheap identity, like masculinity DLC.
Mansplaining consent with confidence? That's horrifyingly relatable as a concept.
He basically says, if you don't teach consent to teenagers, the internet will teach it badly.
And being a gentleman slogans are empty if nobody defines what it costs daily.
Chivalry, toxic masculinity, fix it. Those are labels without rehearsal time.
Rehearsal time meaning small, difficult actions that build character under pressure.
Yeah, like choosing the hard path today, not waiting for the 5-year heroic montage.
That 24 hours in the future question is genius, though. Tomorrow's you audits today's you.
It's like your future self is a strict manager. Why didn't you write those jokes?
Future me hates excuses. Present me loves them. Classic tyranny.
That's also why systems beat goals. You can't trust motivation. It's unreliable.
Okay, but I want to push. Where does mercy come in when someone keeps failing?
Mercy is believing failure is data, not a verdict on your worth.
So failure becomes a teacher, not a judge, and you keep moving toward agency.
He literally says you make friends with failure until your ego stops panicking.
Still, some failures are traumatic, like grief or loss, not just a bad gig.
Grief is cumulative. You don't only practice through it, you carry it differently.
And mortality reframes everything. Like, what would you do if you had 6 months?
Exactly, it makes priorities loud because your tolerance for nonsense drops to 0.
I like that idea. High agency people are harder to comfort with lies.
Yeah, they'll still tolerate you, but they won't tolerate your excuses.
And gratitude becomes practical, like grab another coffee, because time is fleeting.
Also because on some days your only control is how you show up, even when you're wrecked.
That ties back to men too. Meaning isn't only achievement, it's how you connect while building.
Bingo. Meaning is mercy for failure, plus agency plus connection.
And identity grows from reps, not from pretending you never doubt yourself.
Imposter syndrome is just your brain noticing you're leveling up. Don't panic. Calibrate.
Calibrate is such a nicer word than suffer, but it's the same process.
When you stop feeling uncomfortable, you probably stopped pushing, so adjust.
But what if someone truly should chill? Like, not every ambition is healthy.
If it's play, it's fine. If it's a compulsion to outrun emptiness, then watch out.
That's a great distinction. Hobby as joy versus hobby as avoidance.
Become a DJ is fun for a year, then you discover you just wanted a hobby.
And the best quitting is sometimes quitting the identity of being the serious banker.
Which leads to no man's land. You lose network, resources, reputation, while building new skills.
Episode 2 better unpack that emotional bill, because the cost sounds brutal.
Also, we'll show how quitting can be the first move, not the last resort.
All right, wrap it. Go do boring reps, call someone you trust, and fail safely.
Yeah, fail like a grown-up, learn, laugh, and try again tomorrow.
Episode 2 next. We map leaving comfort and surviving the weird gap afterward.